Good morning. Before we start, I'd just like to get confirmation that the translation is working. Translators, you working? Everything good? Okay, good. Okay, good morning. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us this morning. My name is Alan Peabody. I'm the founder and director of Synergistic Digital Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about how the Dimension software suite of applications of systems can help companies turbocharge the value of their PI system as well as other systems in their operations. So we have an agenda this morning, but perhaps before we get there, I'd like to just run through a few housekeeping points. Firstly, the language. I'm going to be speaking English, but we have translators who will be translating it into Spanish. You will be able to select which language you want to hear. On the screen, there's an option that says translation, and from that you can select the language. So that's the first point. The duration, we'll keep this down to as close as we can to an hour. Initially, we thought we'd do it an hour and a half, but we cognizant of the importance of your time, so we'll try and keep it down to an hour. The next point is that you may have questions during the session. Please type them into the question. There's an option to type in questions. If we have time, we'll answer them at the end of the session. If we don't have time, we'll answer them and send them out to you by email. This session is being recorded and will be made available to you. Excuse me, be made available to you as part of the email that I will send out. And we also have a number of videos which will be available on our website, the Synergistics website, which also will be. I'll direct that in the email that we send out. And if you have any further inquiries, please contact me. Okay, so getting into things. The agenda is very much around the Dimension software suite of applications, which will be covered by Robert Eichmann. Dimension is a New Zealand-based company, and they have developed a sophisticated set of tools which are being used by over 10,000 people in operations throughout the world. I won't say much more than that. I'll be handing over to Robert in a minute, and Robert will be. He'll have most of the time during the session. A quick who is Synergistics? I won't dwell on this. But we're a company founded in 2004 here in Chile. We have sister companies in Australia and North America, in Canada and the US. And what we do is we help our clients in capital-intensive industries improve their operations through our consulting and technology services. And we have a world-class suite of partner solutions. So those partner solutions are Dimension Software, which is the nature of today's meeting. AussieSoft, of course, we're an integration partner, and we're also an integration partner of Seek, an advanced analytics tool. And we're a silver Microsoft partner in the areas of Azure and the Power Platform. Our customer base, which will give you a flavor of who we service. So in the mining sector, Anglo-American, these are examples. Anglo-American is a main customer in mining. In power, Tinga Energy and Pacific Hydro. Oil and gas, ENAP. We've done quite a bit of work for ENAP in the past. And an example of the chemicals would be OxyChem down in Concepcion. So we explain ourselves. We have what do we do, I guess, is the question. We work almost exclusively in OT, except in the data area where we integrate data with IT-based data, SAP, various ERPs, etc. But mainly exclusively in OT. And we support operations So yeah, that would be the plant. And in mining, that'd be the mine and the plant. The area of reliability and maintenance, and the supporting functions. Supporting functions would be things like environmental health and service, as well as, environmental health and safety, quality assurance, etc. And then the back office functions behind them. So their work processes behind them. What do we do? Digital transformation. Everything we do tends to be aligned to digital, around digital transformation. And we see that in 4 key areas, data being the primary one. In operations, we all know a huge amount of data. We help our clients make sense of that data at an operations as well as a corporate level. So that could be a fairly simple project, getting data into a SQL database, for example, or it could be a more corporate project where we use Azure and get the data into a data warehouse. We do the architecturing, the design, implementation, support around that. And an example of that is work that we've done in reliability and maintenance, where we capture the real-time data from mobile fleet and make that available in a data warehouse, Azure data warehouse. Related to that is a platform for improvement. Operations are always striving to improve. And we're doing work, for example, in the Pi space, where we're writing Python sort of based solutions, specific, getting data from Pi, addressing specific use cases in production. Visibility for action, that would be a series of dashboards, KPIs, etc. Visibility for action and work process automation for efficiency are related. And we tend to use the Microsoft Power Platform for this. And an example of this would be, for a particular client, they had a geology exploration process, which was basically managed through Excel and Outlook email. We did a business process analysis, defined the process, wrote an application that in Power Apps that supported that, and did reporting using Power BI. We do a lot of that. That's just one example. Okay, don't need to labor that. What we're finding in Chile, and this is really just a summary, every company has their own issues, their own pain points, but what we're finding is that a lot of companies are using Excel still in production to generate reports. Takes a lot of time, error prone. We all know the problems. That's a common set of issues and problems. Other is regulatory compliance, most relevant, increasingly relevant, especially in Chile, with around environment, safety, health, etc. And companies are still finding that they rich in data, got a lot of data, but not so rich in information. They're not converting that to knowledge. And a common thread through most companies, or the last two, is how can we do more with less? We have a huge amount of requirements. We've got a limited budget, and we need to do as much as we can. How can we do that with less time, less money, less people? And where do we start? We've got all these opportunities, but what's the best way of where do we start? I'll touch on that a bit later. So these are a lead into Robert, and I'd like to now welcome Robert and thank Robert for being with us. And over to you.
Thank you, Alan. I'll just put my video back on for a second here, and it's.
So what do I have to do?
So you might want to turn your video off, Alan. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Robert Aikman. I come from New Zealand, so kia ora. That's a welcome in my language from home. I've been involved in the IT industry for quite a number of years, more than I care to remember at times. Just moving forward through to the next slide, please.
You've lost your...
Okay, sorry, we'll move to the next slide now. So Dimension Software. Thank you. We've been in business since 2008. We specialize in everything to do with the PI system. We started out, like Alan, as a PI systems integration company, but over the years, we've expanded into being a product company. When we identified that there was a gap between what the PI historian could deliver for customers and the information that customers needed to make decisions on. We have a global client base, and I'll talk about our clients in a second, and that goes right through to having a global partner network for deployment and support. So on to the next slide. Right through to Chile and Argentina. Based in New Zealand, the only way that we can support these is through our extensive partner network. On to the next slide, please. Some of our customers, to name a few, we have worked at OMV, Rio Tinto Worldwide, Cargill Worldwide, Amsty, power generation, pharmaceutical, mining, rail networks. Our software, a little bit like PI, is applicable to any industry that uses a historian. So it is deployed by configuration, not by coding on site. So any site that will run PI, our solutions, Asset Intellect, and Alarm Sentinel, which I'll be demonstrating shortly, are equally applicable. So we can, thank you. So some of the things that we do and help with is about decision making, having that right information to customers at the right time, and that integration between the OT and IT systems to get the maximum benefit out of the platforms. So we bring together CMS, Power BI, SAP, Esri for mapping. We bring them all together in context of PI. So through one navigation system, one portal, we're able to link those systems together to give a virtual data warehouse. We don't shift data, we reference it and display it. And we're moving on, please. So the type of things that we're hearing, and I just was recently at the Viva PI conference in San Francisco, and this is actually globally. We hear all of these comments coming up all of the time. Problem with getting the right data at the right time. I want to see production reports. I don't want to have to dig for information or go through multiple systems. It's taking me too much time. One thing that's come out of the pandemic is more and more workers are working remotely. And to effectively do that, they need that information at their fingertips without having to hunt for it. They're having to do more with less. Businesses are A, under financial pressure, B, after COVID, we appear globally to have lost a large amount of our workforce. And so we have a problem with workforce retention because of the aging population of our typical workforce and that knowledge sharing. So these are some of the trends that we're seeing globally, and we've been experiencing them in Australia, New Zealand, North America, right through Europe. It's actually just building and building, because our information systems arguably have more information available in them, or more data, but less insights, because we're not able to harvest that information. So this is where we go from Industry 4.0 to Industry 5.0 and start to benefit from that mass data. So if we moving on, so what does Asset Intellect provide? The ability to schedule reports, to include the alarms and events. So typically alarms and events will live within the control room, but they are a critical function for reliability and maintenance engineering to see outside of the control room. So we have solutions that easily bring those through. The ability to go and add OEE calculations. What does it cost when I have an outage? Where do those costs lie within the business? Why is this important? So coming to the next slide. So the typical things that we address with all of our customers, or a selection of customers, is the ability to interface to our maintenance management systems like SAP or Maximo, to go and have our IoT devices and all these devices that are now forming part of the picture of the asset health and asset reliability and performance, all into one place and easy to see in context of what's happening on the historian. So next slide. And so we have developed the ability to enter directly into SQL, Pi event frames, and Pi tags, or AF attributes. Now, these are all menu driven, so no longer do you need to give users access to Pi System Explorer. You can actually control what they access and how they access it and what type of information they put into those attributes. So you don't get reports that look wrong because it's controlled. We have a reporting engine and scheduling engine. So at the end of shift handovers, for example, we're able to trigger reports that go off and write to tables of production, outages, whatever happened during that schedule. They can be done on periodic or on an event, such as if there was an environmental excursion, you might want a report to be triggered, created, and sent to the environmental manager behind the scenes with no intervention. That's all self-subscription, so it's not going and asking someone to set this up for me. It's all capable of being self-provisioned. Okay, so more and more we get into registers of changes, change management, permits to work. In power industry, they're called overrides and bridges. So you'll need to keep a track of and permissions to do different activities. Again, all through configuration, our systems cater for that without having to have that programmed, and they are able to be supported by site staff. We no longer need to bring in necessary high-cost outside resources once the system is deployed. They're able to be configured manually on site. Right through to OEE calculations for outages and linking that to either Power BI, Spotfire, the tools of choice from the IT department. Now I'm going through these quite quickly because I want to get into the demonstration. But if we look at the type of interfaces that we have, we've got the technology platforms at the bottom. We have connectivity through APIs, SQL. We can go out to Oracle, ODBC, OLEDB. So basically, we're providing a platform that can deliver to all of these diverse needs within the organization, and a multitude of ways of displaying that information, from scalable vector graphics to charting to KPI performance and reporting, right up to, if you want to go and use R for analytics or Seek for advanced analytics, it's all menu driven, all from the one point of place. So on to the next slide, and I think we're about to go into the demonstration, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. I need to get Alan to now swap and let me share my screen. Sorry, let me come back here. Screen. Next one. Okay. So I'm now, so this is the Asset Intellect portal. It runs in a web browser, and you will see here that my left-hand side, which I'm just highlighting, that is my asset framework. It is actually Pi Asset Framework. It's not a copy. I'm reading in real time the Pi system and bringing back the asset framework from the Pi system. And then, depending on where I am in the Pi system, it will determine what tabs I see. If I come out of there and if I go down to maybe our operations area, let that render. You'll notice now that I've come down to a different element within the Pi system. I now have a raft of different tabs appearing across my screen. Now that is all determined by who is logged on. Because of my permissions, I'm able to see those tabs. If I'm a reliability engineer, I may have one set of tabs. Depending on what AD group I belong to will determine what AF elements I see on the left-hand side here, which AF elements and which tabs I see over here. So that's how, at the moment, I'm showing a lot of tabs and a lot of the AF structure from the point of view that I'm just trying to demonstrate as much as I can in the limited time we have here. So this screen would be a typical operation screen where we have a Pi Vision tab here. This one's Pi Vision, some charting here, a Power BI screen here, maybe some mapping. We're going out to a website down here. Sorry. See, we got the wrong screen displaying, have we?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, let me share screen.
Looks like you've lost us in section.
I may have lost my connection. Let me come back to that one. Share that. Let me come out of here. Give me a second. I will just have to get that. It's dropped the network on me, I believe. let me come back to here. And, sorry, we have a few little network issues in the hotel today, and it's been causing a little bit of a problem for us. So apologies about that. I'm running on a server back in New Zealand, and relying on hotel Wi-Fi networks is sometimes problematic. That will render in just a second for me.
So while that comes in, Robert, these screens that we can see, that's completely up to, that's definable by the client.
Correct.
Based on their requirements.
Yeah. And as I said, different use cases will dictate different screens, and we have customers using these in a multitude of different ways.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And that rendering is very slow.
And you need people to code this? So you need sort of a heavy IT department, or?
No, it's normally Pi systems administrators get to grips with this very, very quickly.
Okay.
And we find that once during deployment and configuration, initial configuration, there's a lot of knowledge transfer. And one of the conventions we have here, like I can expand out my tiles and interact with them, and then I can put these away as well. I can pop that back where it came from, if I can get to it.
Won't you explain the use of that particular, because I know we discussed it earlier, and I think there could be some application amongst some of our users.
So this here is, I'll pop that out again in that case, Alan. So this here is some work that we've done for a major oil and gas company where they need to test their valve strokes on their safety valves. So they'll have a crack time, a travel time, and a safe open and safe close scenario. So they need to be testing these and going in both directions. And they wanted a visualization of how they were measured and how they were performing over time for the last 10 movements in either direction. And this is work that we did. And then, so all of the work is done in Pi AF Analytics, and the visualization in this instance is using Power BI. It could have been Spotfire or our charting tool.
Right.
It's just that worked for this scenario. So
coming back to the title of this webinar, which is Turbocharge the Value of Your Pi System. This is pretty much native Pi with a few other tools on top of it, Power BI in that case.
Yep.
But the data's from Pi, the analytics you were saying is from Pi.
It's from Pi. For example, here I've got a map, and it's not uncommon to want to know where your assets are, especially if they're mobile assets. If it's a big water treatment station, which this is, they may want to be able to click on an asset that they have a fault with and drill direct down the asset framework structure to information about that asset. So I'm now looking, there was a transformer that was playing up. So I'm now looking at the information that I have decided in this scenario I want to look at. So I went from a high level dashboard, drilled right down to a Pi Vision screen, which we've overlaid a infrared camera image and a Seek advanced analytic trend onto that Pi Vision screen. Quite common when I have a fault or an issue with an asset, I might want to go and investigate the maintenance history. What has been put into SAP or Maximo or Infor or whatever the maintenance management system is. So we will go out and read from query that external database and bring back the relevant records in real time so that we enable the user to carry out that investigation.
And that's in the context of that transformer.
In the context of that particular asset, whether it's a pump, a transformer, a conveyor, a bushing,
Excellent.
whatever you want as far as the AF structure is concerned. Now, one of the really common things everyone has is some manual data entry, whether we like it or not. People are going around with tablets or notebooks or whatever, and we need to enter that data because we want to historize it. We want to see that data in future. So we have the ability within Asset Intellect to enter them in as event frames or as SQL tables or manipulate attributes within Pi. The convention here is I can enter within the field like so, like a normal Excel spreadsheet, and I can have limits on that. If I want, I can do formatting, or if I don't want to do it that way, I can bring up a form and do my form data entry. So that again is just through configuration. Over to the user, how do you like to do your data entry?
Super.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
Sorry, I was going to say, and talking about formatting, if you hide that screen,
yeah.
On the right-hand side, you've got IEEE and overall, the indicators, colored indicators. That's conditional formatting underneath that, I understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Conditional formatting. So depending on the values, we can change the lines. We can assign icons to the different types of data entry if we want. And if I want, I can add a wiki entry. Now, this one already has a wiki because it's got a little notebook off to the side. And a wiki is something that we've found really quite game-changing for a lot of industry, where let's bring this out and see what this says properly. Okay, it's telling it someone's made some notes here about that entry. So the concept being, I want to keep everything related to the assets to my plant easily accessible and easy to find. And so that's where the wiki came from. We can, within the wiki, we can create a work order or trigger a work order to be created, or send an email out to one of our colleagues straight from the wiki. So if I now come up maybe to my unit level here, I'm just working up the asset framework tree. I might want to have a look at what alarms have happened in that area. And this is our Alarm Sentinel product, which works in conjunction with Asset Intellect. And what Alarm Sentinel allows us to do is very quickly we can pick on one of our alarms. We've already tagged a couple of Pi attributes to that alarm source. And so I can now see on my trend, sorry, oh, it's still loading, sorry. I will see on the trend when that alarm happened. I can actually filter by the alarm source and see, okay, so that's happened X times. I have the ability to go and, so that's my alarm happening that's when it happened. I might have an alarm master database which I've loaded. Now, the alarm master database is completely configurable. You can have whatever fields you like, depending on the SCADA system. Maybe if it's a Yokogawa, you'll have one set of alarm master records as opposed to an ABB. We can then have a look. Is there a wiki against this? So this is, now I'm working with the alarms and events now. And if there is a wiki against it, hopefully engineers who have looked at this problem in the past, maybe 2, 3, 5 years ago, have made notes. So now I can review what notes and actions they took. I can have a look at my statistics. How many times did this happen? But really quite critical is I'm at my alarm that's happened, but I'm going to now want to navigate back down to that asset. What within my station, what within my mine caused that alarm to happen? So if I'm a reliability engineer, I've gone directly to the asset and I can start my investigation. And with that, if I decide I've exhausted everything that I can here, and I want to go in and do some advanced analytics on this, I can go in and open my Seek icon at the top here. And because we've linked Seek to Asset Intellect, it will open Seek element relative to where I came from. Now, I'm not going to do a very long Seek demonstration as part of this presentation, but when Seek opens, you'll see that we come in with our transformer here. It's brought us in at the transformer level and the attributes that I can actually start plotting within Seek and start looking at trends for maybe I can do
so some folks may not know what Seek is. It's a non-dimension tool. It's a tool company, a solution set owned by a US-based company, and it's focused on, it's an advanced analytics tool primarily for the process industry, which is very applicable to the Pi community.
Yeah. So in here, as Alan said, it's advanced analytics, so I can do things like I can do my trending, I can do my capture of capsules, which are when certain events happen. But one of the things I like about Seek is the ability to share and to go in, and so we're going to do it with, yeah, okay. I'm going to just grab that one there, copy it to the clipboard. Let's save that.
Could be a rendering problem.
I think it's, yeah.
There it is, URL copy to clipboard.
Yeah. Now, if I go back out of there, and I then jump back to my Asset Intellect, where I was, I have the ability within Asset Intellect, if I am have the rights to do this, I have the ability to enable designer, so that if I'm an administrator, I can add and remove toolbars and can do configuration. If in this instance, you'll see now there's some along the top, we have some of these in red, so they're inactive at the moment, but I'm going to add a new widget and I'm going to call it Seek, and maybe only me, will see this. It will then ask me to add content to it. So what type of content can we add to these tiles? And when that renders in just a sec, we'll see that we can add, we have a whole raft of standard items that we can add. I'm going to add seek, and I'm going to just paste that there. And I want to go into presentation mode. And I want to save it. 50. And I probably didn't copy it properly to start with, but basically, if I'd saved that properly within seek, but I didn't because I was going a little bit fast, that would have then put that embedded within our menu here. And if I come back out, that will now have that trend. It should have that trend there within the menu system. So that's how difficult it is to add a new menu item to our toolbar.
And just to perhaps state the obvious, the data that was good, that seek drew those trend lines from, that came directly from Pi.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And if building Pi using templates means if you have another element built on the same template, that seek trend would work for that as well. So just coming back up, and some of the other types of things that we do. So this, again, it's all through configuration. So the tool allows us to do manual data entry, set up templates for manual data entry, set up interconnections. So I can have the different tiles on the screen interrelating with other tiles, and for either date, and I'll show in a second, things like shift handover, shift daily stand-ups. This is an example, and I'm showing a whole lot of different examples today to just give a feel for how versatile these platforms are. So I have my safety instrumented systems. So we have initiators here, and this time, this is our initiators in here. Now, if I select an initiator, let's take one that's successful. It's always good. So click on it. It will show me how the final elements performed. And I notice here that they're all green. So they all passed. So they actually triggered and did what I expected them to do within the time frame. I can have a look down here at this tile, the response times to the final elements. I've got my PNID. I've got some initiator settings. Maybe I've got some photos. I've got the maintenance history for that initiator, for the primary element. If I've got one that's failed, let's have a look at what happens. So you'll notice when I clicked on this initiator, when I clicked on that initiator, this screen changed, this screen changed. So we can link them together so that we actually have that information all appearing quite easily on the one screen. So if I come back up and I'm looking at maybe my operations, or yeah, not that one. So with dashboarding, we can have a look at what our alarms are doing from the control. Is it flooding our, from an alarm and instrument perspective, am I flooding the control room? Are they able to operate? So these are just examples. These are examples on how people are using the system to run their business. My maintenance management, sorry, that's my correct one. Process safety overall is good. We've done a very large piece of work. So my leading indicators is actually a very good example of a high-level dashboard of how my lead indicators are pointing to the successful running of the plant. Have I got membranes and MOCs outstanding? No, that's preventive maintenance. It's okay, but my control loop performance maybe needs to be looked at, and overrides and bridges where I've put in a bypass that is actually overdue or coming up to overdue to be removed. So I can highlight that. So by doing conditional formatting in the color palette, you apply your color palette too. So if you've got corporate standards for safe, unsafe, dangerous, whatever, you would apply those to this. Right through to our process control integrity index is an example for a large multinational mining company. We've been working with them to produce these 12 characteristics that they consider what they need to be able to know that they are safely managing their operations. So at a very micro level, down at the smelter, down at the pot line, down at the carbon area, there'll be attributes that are being entered, and those are either aggregated, sometimes there's a weighting put on them, other ones are just purely added together, and eventually they bubble up and aggregate to this map, which says, okay, my tactics on instrumentation, that needs improvement. I know that at the moment, my calibration records are good and clean. They're green for every site. Every site has a problem with jumpers and bridges. Now, that's basically that chart there tells me that information. But the chart I really like, because I like colorful things, is this chart here, because it shows where I am now and where I was historically. So am I getting more in control of my operations or not? So as a board member for this mining company, they want to be able to report that, yes, they know how their plants are running and they have a comfortable feeling that they can manage their operation. They started out, a lot of the entry here is manual data entry, but as they evolve to putting in more IoT sensors and gaining more of the information directly out of their control platforms and subsidiary systems, these inputs will be automatically calculated. And for example, at the moment, some of them are they roll month by month by month. And some of the calculations do not need to be updated for 2 or 3 months, and they get flagged if they are stale and no one has looked at them. Again, it is all through parameters. It's configuration, not coding on site. Now, before I forget, one of the nice things that we have added, we've always had help here. So online help for everything. And in conjunction with the written help, how do I connect up Power BI to get a report? We've got that. I can search video. And what we have just recently added, and we're adding more of them, are our video tutorials on how to do things. So they're pre-recorded recordings that are linked into our, I did have searched, didn't I? That are linked into our help desk here, our help files. And of course, because it's video reference, there we go. Training series, bring that up. And here are our training. So you want to know how to create new content, new tabs, mapping the Pi Vision content. So how to use SQL, configuring SQL. So all there, and within an easy to find area. So how are we going time-wise, Alan?
Yeah, we've got 8 minutes to go. So maybe a bit of a wrap up in terms of a summary, and then I'll move on to the IoT journey.
Okay.
Sorry, the OT journey.
OT journey. Yeah. So look, in summary, what we're doing is bringing everything together in a very easy, actionable way for your business. It's not someone else's business of how you want to run your maintenance operations. You know, you're going to have inspections and rounds, and how you do that, whether they are fixed rounds or variable rounds, that's fine. Everyone runs their business slightly differently. So this platform allows you to configure that business rules to your operation. So if you need permits for work and they need to be escalated up and sent off to management to approve, all that workflow is accommodated. So everything to do with bringing OT and IT together in one place is what Asset Intellect is about, but then powered with the ability to look at those alarms and events, which time and time again, just stay in the control room and don't come out for the reliability and maintenance engineers to see. So I think, yeah, that's the summary.
Excellent.
So, Alan,
yeah, super. Thank you, Robert. Also, perhaps one point you mentioned earlier was access. So you can tailor access based on the information requirements of the individual or a group of people.
That's right. The Active Directory, typically the Active Directory rights here. So whoever's logged on with their AD single sign-on. So it takes care of that and passes that sign-on credentials to the subsidiary systems.
Right.
All right. So you're not logging into 4 or 5 systems.
Well, you are, but the system's doing it for us. Asset Intellect is doing it for you. Yeah, excellent. No, really high value. And that's why companies like Rio Tinto, Glencore, Newmont Mining have chosen this tool in their operations.
And just on that, there's videos there from Queensland Aluminium, Newmont Mines, Innerphos, one of the largest phosphate manufacturers in the world. Everyone who uses toothpaste uses their product.
Right. Super. Those videos will be on our website shortly. Okay, how do I share now? I'll share screen. Okay, I've just got a section which I'm going to cover. I mentioned earlier, one of the points earlier was many people, many companies, many of our clients are asking the question, oh, this is great. It's in the context not only of Asset Intellect and the Dimension Suite, but also of all their other requirements or their other tools in their operation. The question is, what do they do next? How do they? Yeah, what do they do next? So the various challenges, of course. One challenge could be the overall the overall digital transformation roadmap. in an operation, that's really a medium-term view, which I'm not covering now. What I'm covering now is more the short-term. What do we do next? And we have a journey, a roadmap, which we've used very successfully with our clients, and this is it. So the main objective of this roadmap, of these series of activities, is to be focused on results and to get to value as soon as possible. So we're finding, making a lot of sense, we're finding clients not wanting to, they don't have the resources, don't have the time, technology is changing rapidly, which means take advantage of what's available at the moment and get to value as soon as possible. So the first step in this journey we suggest to our clients is to do a so-called value discovery workshop. And the objective of this is to help our clients capture and analyze their pain points or their use cases and set priorities and actions. What does that look like? What we do in the workshop, well, there's a preparation phase beforehand, but in the workshop we come together and we agree on the different use cases that this particular operations, particular client is challenged by, or that needs to resolve. So yeah, it's completely depends on, as I say, what those challenges are. Those get defined, get understood, discussed, understood. People now have a common understanding of what they are. We then do an analysis and we analyze them with respect to the impact on the business, the economic cost and return, as well as the technical feasibility. So within the impact to the business, and these criteria are defined and reviewed in the workshop and are agreed upon. It could be fewer, could be more, but in this case, it was safety, downtime, throughput, and quality. Cost and return, of course, are probably common. I don't think there's going to be much debate around those two. And then technical feasibility is respect to complexity of OT, complexity of IT, the need for analytics, system impacts, and project management impacts. So this gets evaluated. Yes, it's not empirical, but it provides a basis on which to rank the different use cases in terms of their priorities. And this is against the matrix of impact on the business and the ability to execute to address that use case using existing technology or technology that's being implemented. And as I say, these use cases then get mapped against this matrix. Those that are high value technology is available fall into this category, and it would be sensible to address these as a priority initially. So as I say, one gets to value really quickly with this because it's high impact and the technology is available. This may not be the last analysis. Maybe there are 4 or 5 use cases here. One would then want to perhaps do a deeper dive into them to verify, for example, the cost and the value and maybe the impact on the business. But at least it gives you a roadmap.
Alan, can I just interject here?
Sure.
We have one of our customers in Australia, AGL, which is the major power generation company for Australia. Dave Bartello, Director of Operational Technology, he's come up with a model that every time he deploys new software, he adds it to his software register. And then from that point on, every time that software has averted an outage or caused cost saving to the business, i.e. prevented a turbine having to be shut down, reduced the amount of maintenance outage they have, he puts the cost of that prevention into that register. And he, as he says, people can argue the value of that he puts in. He said that's good because it means they're looking at it. But he says by doing that, we're able to show after a year, 2 years, the value of the effort and the expense that we've had. And I think what you're describing here is an excellent start before you've even kicked a project off, to have that register and to then come back and actually review against it. Yeah, we said we were going to save X dollars. Have we saved it? Yes, we have. Tick, move on.
Excellent.
I think that's really
excellent.
critical.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you put in a predictive breakdown tool that predicts breakdown, and that should be the last thing you hear of it, because it's predicted when something's going to fail and you fix it. But you do need to inform the business that this has actually done that prediction, and we have taken the preventative action, and we're now able to run problem-free for. Excellent, thank you, Robert. So I've actually incorporated. We did discuss this earlier, and I incorporated that in point number 3. But we'll get to that in a second. So we first do the workshop, define the use cases, analyze them, prioritize them, and decide which use cases need to be addressed or can be addressed quickly to deliver value. And then we do a pilot. And normally the pilot is, well, it depends on the complexity and what it is one's addressing, but it could be 2 months. And we work with the client to achieve the objectives as defined in the use case. So yeah, it's a very, very real process. Point number 3 is what you've described, is the estimating and communicating the value, the business benefit to the organization. And I think it's a fantastic concept and process. And then thereafter, iterate through the prioritized use cases. Maybe it's the same use cases that were defined in the value discovery workshop, or things change. Maybe there's a need to do another workshop or determine other use cases and reset the priorities. Just looking at the time, we're 4 minutes over. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for your participation. You haven't participated. I hope you found this really interesting. We're available, both Robert and myself, and anybody from Synergistics, to give you more information, to give you a deeper dive demo, to give you a demo specifically for your industry, for your issues. We've got folk from different industries, and so this was generic. We'll do what we say, answer the questions. We've run out of time. Answer the questions, send you the video, send you a link to the video rather, and sorry, to the recording, a link to the web page where the videos will be, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.